In the scorching desert of California, a new homeowner begins clearing a neglected backyard. He digs a little, then suddenly hits something strange, a buried septic tank. He opens it. Inside the filthy water, a woman's skeleton wrapped in a blanket, and beside her, the bones of a small paralyzed dog. A very tiny wheelchair, as if it were a wheelchair for the dog. Yes, a disabled dog with its own wheelchair and its owner both buried together in a septic tank, treated like trash. What happened here? Who was this woman who disappeared for years without anyone truly missing her? The discovery was completely accidental. The new homeowner found the remains while doing yard work in the backyard, digging into the ground. At first, he saw human remains wrapped in a blanket. Nearby were small bones that could have been mistaken for a child's, and a very small wheelchair. Before diving deeper into this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. The homeowner immediately reported the discovery to the police, which led to the involvement of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. When the remains were recovered, investigators and forensic experts quickly determined that the skeleton belonged to an adult human. Based on clear anatomical features, it was identified as an adult female. The body had been wrapped in a blanket, which helped keep the bones relatively intact and organized, making it easier to recognize a nearly complete human skeleton. Next to the human remains were the bones of a small dog, identified as a dachshund. The distinction was clear, as dog bones differ significantly from human bones in size and structure. Smaller skull, shorter legs, and different spinal formation. Most importantly, investigators found a small dog wheelchair, also known as a dog wheelchair or mobility cart. It was a very unusual and distinctive object, essentially a sling with wheels designed to support paralyzed hind legs. This object could not have belonged to a human and immediately indicated the presence of a disabled dog. The estimated time of death was around the summer of 1993, approximately 3 years before the discovery. At the time the skeleton was found in August 1996, no one could immediately identify the woman. The remains were in an advanced state of decomposition after about 3 years, and the area was remote and sparsely populated. Neighbors and locals could not recall any woman matching her description living on that property. However, almost everyone remembered the disabled dog as soon as they saw the wheelchair. It was extremely distinctive and rare. A local veterinarian helped identify the dog's breed and medical condition based on the bones. This led investigators to search veterinary clinic records, eventually uncovering treatment records for a dog named Willie. The records listed the owner's address and name, Barbara Weston. Through this unusual clue, a disabled dog's wheelchair, the victim was finally identified. Barbara Weston was a 51-year-old woman originally from Oklahoma. She lived a nomadic lifestyle, working as a truck driver and traveling between California and Oklahoma, where her children and grandchildren lived. She was known for her kindness, especially toward animals. Barbara owned a small dachshund named Willie. After the dog became paralyzed in its hind legs, she chose to buy him a custom dog wheelchair instead of euthanizing him. Locally, the dog was nicknamed Wheels because of his mobility cart. Why did no one report Barbara Weston missing for nearly 3 years, from the summer of 1993 until the discovery in August 1996? The answer lies in a combination of her lifestyle and the killer's deception. Barbara was extremely independent and worked as a truck driver, constantly traveling between states. She was known as a free bird, someone who would leave suddenly without telling anyone. One friend from the Cactus Inn bar said, when she wanted to leave, she just left. Before her death, Barbara had openly planned to return to Oklahoma. She had sent her belongings ahead to her children and told friends she had found work there. So when she disappeared, it seemed natural and expected. Her children in Oklahoma did not file a missing persons report because they believed she had moved and would contact them later. There was no daily communication that raised immediate concern, especially given her independent nature. Once Barbara was identified, neighbors and friends recalled her violent and volatile relationship with Stephen Swaim, who lived with her on the same property, land owned by his family. The septic tank itself had been dug by Stephen Swaim. After Barbara disappeared, Swaim told people she had returned to Oklahoma, an explanation that later raised serious suspicions. After the discovery, investigators tracked Swaim to his father's home in Lake Los Angeles, about 15 miles from the burial site. Detective Martinez went directly to the house, knocked on the door, and asked for Swaim. He was arrested there within days, around August 15, 1996. During interrogation, Swaim confessed to the killing, claiming it was self-defense following an argument. The relationship between Swaim and Weston had been marked by years of mutual violence and heavy drinking. They had known each other for nearly 10 years after meeting at the Cactus Inn bar. Their arguments were frequent and often escalated to dangerous levels. In one earlier incident, Barbara had shot Swaim in the finger with a handgun. In retaliation, Swaim rammed her house with his truck and burned it down. The fatal argument occurred inside the trailer where they lived together. Swaim told police the confrontation began as a verbal argument and escalated when Barbara shoved him into a refrigerator. At that moment, Swaim completely lost control. He grabbed a knife sharpener and broke it over her head. Then he picked up a pipe wrench and struck her 4 more times while she lay helpless on the floor. After killing Barbara, Swaim turned to the disabled dog. Despite the dog's paralysis and reliance on its wheelchair, Swaim beat it to death with the same pipe wrench. No logical reason was given for killing the dog. Prosecutors later argued that this act demonstrated a complete lack of remorse and contradicted any claim of self-defense. They stated that burying both bodies together in a septic tank showed Swaim knew his actions were illegal and deliberately attempted to hide all evidence. The trial began in March 1997. Swaim testified that he did not intend to kill Barbara and acted in self-defense. His attorneys argued the case was the result of long-standing mutual violence. However, on May 16, 1997, the jury convicted Stephen Swaim of second-degree murder. On June 6, 1997, he was sentenced to 16 years in prison. This case became a well-known example of how unconventional evidence, such as the remains of a beloved pet, can solve long-forgotten crimes. The story was later featured in the episode Death in the Desert of the true crime series Buried in the Backyard, highlighting how a disabled dog ultimately helped reveal the truth. How many cold cases do you think are still hidden underground, waiting for one small detail to expose the truth? Do you believe Stephen Swaim acted in self-defense, or was this a calculated attempt to erase Barbara's existence forever? If this story shocked you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next true crime story. Imagine this. A young woman captivates millions on a famous TV cooking show, smiling in front of the cameras as she prepares artistic dishes, praised by celebrity chefs, and reaches the finals. Then, just a few years later, that smile turns into a mask, hiding one of the most horrific cases of torture and murder in modern Malaysian history. How can someone who masters the art of cooking also master the art of cruelty with such brutality? This is the story of Adhika Siti Nora Shikin, the former star of MasterChef Malaysia who became a killer. Who was the victim? The victim was Nur Afia Dang Damin, a 28-year-old Indonesian woman from South Sulawesi, Selatan. She came to Malaysia to work as a domestic helper, supporting her family during the COVID-19 pandemic when many were forced to stay home. She was married, and a distinctive bangle on her wrist later helped identify her. She suffered severe violations: unpaid wages, denial of sufficient food, prevented from returning home, and daily ongoing torture platforms, but loved cooking and joined the show to prove her talent. Who are the perpetrators? Adhika Siti Nurashikin Muhammad Suong, 37 years old at the time of the verdict. She was 24 when she appeared on the show. She gained fame through her participation in MasterChef Malaysia Season 2 in 2012, a popular reality TV cooking competition show broadcast on Astro Ria. The show brings together amateur chefs from across Malaysia to compete in cooking challenges under the guidance of professional chefs. Atika reached the finals and finished in 4th place among the top 4 contestants, which made her somewhat well known in Sabah's media and culinary circles. Atika holds a master's degree in geology from the University of Malaysia, Sabah, and previously worked in the oil industry. She was a mother of 3 children, including twin boys who were 2 years old at the time and diagnosed with autism. Mohammed Ambri Yunos Adunos, 44 years old, her ex-husband and a contractor. They lived together in a luxurious apartment in the Amber Tower complex in Penampang, Sabah, Malaysia. Details of the horrific crime and torture. This was not a momentary outburst of anger, but a prolonged, systematic campaign of torture lasting days, from December 8 to 11, 2021. The victim endured deliberate injuries to her face and body, including use of pliers to harm her mouth and teeth, 6 front teeth damaged, gum tears, and partial forced extraction of some teeth. Open wounds inside the mouth, with pain described as 10 out of 10. Daily deprivation of food and rest. One of the most chilling details is that the perpetrators used their mobile phones to film the torture sessions live and repeatedly in real time, as if documenting memories or preserving some evidence of the victim's suffering. Police recovered videos and images stored on their phones showing the abuse in gruesome detail. The prosecutor described these recordings as clear evidence of prolonged and deliberate cruelty, proving the torture was intentional, ongoing, and not spontaneous. The judge relied heavily on this digital evidence to establish their common intention and premeditation. How was the body discovered? The couple claimed they returned from a holiday in Kundasang and found the victim unconscious on the floor, then reported it to the police. However, the body was in an advanced state of decomposition, completely disfigured from accumulated injuries, making visual identification impossible. She was identified only by the bangle on her wrist. The discovery occurred between December 8 and 11, 2021, inside the apartment. Investigation and trial details. They were arrested on December 14, 2021. The autopsy was conducted by forensic odontologist Dr. Nurhayata Jafar at Queen Elizabeth Hospital, revealing deliberate injuries close to the time of death. 8 soft tissue injuries in the mouth, gum tears, and trauma to 6 front teeth. Key evidence, digital videos and photos, medical testimony, and conflicting statements. Each tried to blame the other. Final verdict. On June 20, 2025, both were convicted of murder. Section 302 of the Penal Code read with Section 34 for common intention in the Kota Kinabalu High Court, presided over by Justice Datuk Dr. Lim Hock Lang. Each was sentenced to 34 years in prison, minimum 30 years, maximum 40, with sentences starting immediately. Ambri received an additional 12 strokes of the cane, while Etika was exempted due to her gender, under Section 289 of the Criminal Procedure Code. No successful appeal has been reported to date. Attica City Nora Shakeen and Mohammed Ambri Yunos had already divorced in July 2024, well before the final conviction and sentencing on June 20, 2025. During the trial, both defendants repeatedly attempted to blame each other for the torture and murder of the maid. For example, Ambri accused Etika of using tools like a metal rod from a vacuum cleaner to assault the victim. Attica, in her defense, primarily pointed fingers at Ambri. The judge noted this mutual blame shifting in the judgment, but the evidence, including videos, photos, and forensic reports, proved their common intention in the crime, leading to both being convicted regardless. The divorce occurred during the ongoing trial process, likely exacerbated by the mutual accusations and the stress of the case. So, the separation happened before the final 2025 sentencing, but it was directly tied to the conflict and blame game that intensified throughout the legal proceedings. The impact and terrifying message. This case shocked all of Malaysia, especially Sabah, and highlighted the suffering of foreign domestic workers and hidden domestic violence. The stark contrast between Etika's image as a smiling cooking star on MasterChef Malaysia, a show celebrating creativity in food, and the brutality she committed made the story even more horrifying, as if the person skilled at creating beautiful dishes was the same one destroying a human life without mercy. What made the victim endure all this suffering without escaping or asking for help? Why were the perpetrators documenting their crimes on their mobile phones? Write your opinions in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Share it with anyone interested in true crime stories. In the heart of Australia's ancient forests, 7 young travelers vanished without a trace. They were never seen alive again until the ground gave them back, one shallow grave at a time. Ivan Milat, the backpacker killer. Ivan Robert Marco Milat was born on December 27, 1944 in New South Wales, Australia. He was the 5th of 14 children born to a Croatian immigrant father and an Australian mother. He grew up in a large, poor family that became well known to police due to the frequent criminal activities of many of its members. From an early age, Ivan displayed antisocial and delinquent behavior. At around 13, he was sent to a boarding school. By age 17, he was already in a juvenile detention center for theft. At 19, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison for breaking and entering. After his release, he was rearrested within a month for car theft and received a 2-year sentence with hard labor. This pattern of theft and imprisonment continued repeatedly. In April 1971, he was charged with the abduction and sexual assault of 2 18-year-old girls. While awaiting trial, he faked his own suicide and fled to New Zealand. He was later arrested again, but the charges were eventually dropped, partly due to the skill of the family's lawyer and the victim's withdrawal of their statements. In 1975, at age 30, Ivan married 17-year-old Karen, who was pregnant with another man's child. He offered to marry her and raise the child. However, the marriage soon became extremely abusive. He subjected her to constant physical violence, strict control, and humiliation. In 1987, after 12 years of enduring the abuse, Karen finally left him. In retaliation, Ivan reportedly set fire to her belongings in front of her parents' house. Between late 1989 and early 1992, Ivan Milat carried out a series of brutal murders targeting young backpackers traveling along the Hume Highway. He would offer them rides, then drive them to the remote Belonglo State Forest, where he subjected them to prolonged torture, sexual assault, and murder, frequently by multiple stabbings, shooting, and in some cases, beheading. The 7 victims for whom he was convicted are Deborah Everest, 19, Australian, and James Gibson, 19, Australian, disappeared December 30, 1989. Simone Schmidl, 21, German, disappeared January 20, 1991. Gabor Neugbauer, 21, German, and Anja Habschied, 20, German, disappeared December 26, 1991. Anja was decapitated. Caroline Clark, 21, British, and Joanne Walters, 22, British, disappeared April 18, 1992. The bodies, partially buried, were discovered between September 1992 and November 1993 in Belonglo State Forest. The breakthrough in the case came from British backpacker Paul Onions, who narrowly escaped an abduction attempt by Milat in January 1990. Onions managed to flee after Milat produced a gun and rope inside the vehicle. In 1994, while back in the UK, Onions contacted Australian police and later positively identified Malat from photographs. On May 5, 1994, after surveillance and further investigation, police raided Malat's home in Cinnabar Street, Eagle Vale. They arrested him in the presence of approximately 50 officers. Inside the house, they found firearms matching those used in the murders, as well as numerous personal items belonging to the victims. Additional items linked to the victims were later recovered from the homes of some of Malat's brothers. Ivan Malat's trial began in 1996 before the Supreme Court of New South Wales and lasted 18 weeks. After hearing evidence from more than 145 witnesses, the jury found him guilty on July 27, 1996, of the murders of all 7 backpackers, the attempted murder of Paul Onions, false imprisonment, and armed robbery. He was sentenced to 7 consecutive terms of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole, plus additional fixed terms for the other offenses. While in maximum security prison, Malat made several unsuccessful attempts to appeal his convictions, escape, and even self-harmed on multiple occasions, swallowing razor blades, cutting off his finger in protest. In May 2019, he was diagnosed with advanced esophageal and stomach cancer. Ivan Malat died on October 27, 2019, at age 74, in the medical wing of Long Bay Correctional Complex. He never confessed to the crimes. His body was cremated, with the cost of cremation covered from his prison account. The Malat case remains one of the most notorious and horrific serial murder cases in Australian history. It inspired the horror film Wolf Creek, 2005 and 2013 sequels, and the television miniseries Catching Malat, 2015. To this day, authorities continue to investigate possible links between Malat and several other unsolved murders of backpackers and missing persons in Australia during the 1970s, 80s, and early 1990s. How was Ivan Malat able to murder multiple backpackers for years without being caught, despite repeated warning signs and prior violent behavior? Do you believe there were more victims of Ivan Malat that were never officially linked to him? Why or why not? If this case shocked you, like the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more true crime stories that uncover the darkest secrets behind real events.